Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be reviewing this game right here, Too Many Bones. Anyway, let's get it to the table. Okay, so let's take a look at the back of the box. Welcome to Daylor, a land cowering in fear of a lawless melting pot of evil known as the Ebon. You and your companions are Gearlocks from Deepwood, and have lost your homes and many kin to this foe. Their latest invasion has struck at the very heart of the forest, and the Gearlock Council has finally decided to strike back. Your party has been commissioned to eliminate the Ebon once and for all, by tactically taking out the tyrants pulling the strings. Bring your wit, your skill, and your tech. A difficult journey awaits. Too Many Bones is a solo / co-op dice builder RPG that takes you on a groundbreaking adventure filled with baddies, loot, and tough encounters. No GM necessary. Your story unfolds based on the tyrant you're pursuing, encounters and baddies you draw, and Gearlocks in your party. All this and a few other surprises will dramatically affect battle strategy and success. As you progress, you'll unlock new skills and stat dice, allowing you to craft powerful dice combos and tactics. Plan carefully. A final battle with one of the 7 merciless tyrants is just around the corner. Too Many Bones is easy to grasp, but not for the faint of heart or mind. Are you ready to embark? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do when starting is we're going to lay out the battle map. And we're also going to take the effect dice and put them at the bottom here. And the enemy effect dice and do the same by here. Also, we're going to take the locking dice and put them to one side. And then we've just got our plain d6 to leave off by here. As well as that, what we're going to do is we're going to place the round tracker dice here. We're going to set up these lane marker chips above and lay the initiative dice for each inside. So that would be initiative dice for 1, initiative dice for 2, initiative dice for 3 and 4. Okay, now we're going to set up the gearlock. Okay, so the gearlock I've chosen for today is going to be Patches. I'm going to lay that a good distance away from the battle mat so that we can fit our loot decks next to the battle mat like so. And we also want to make sure that we grab the 16 dice, our initiative dice. These are the skill dice that are for my character, and these are just general defense and attack dice. I've also grabbed this chip, which I'm going to place in this area, and this is the initiative dice which we'll use for battle. Next, you want to take this day counter card and the chip belonging to it and make sure it's set to day 1 based on that marker at the top by there. Then we're going to choose a tyrant, and in this case I've chosen to go for Nom. So we're going to grab his chip, his special dice, which if you don't know, you can find out which dice belongs to which, as their symbols are shown on the bottom of the back of their tyrant card. So that's Nom, his chip, and his dice ready. Okay, so now let's set up the baddie stacks. And how we're going to do this is we're going to pull every chip with these icons in the corner, and you'll see on each of the baddies there's an encounter set it belongs to. So we're going to pull all those from those 3 icons, which are, shuffle them up, and they're basically going to form the 1 point baddie stack. Then we're going to grab all the ones with 5 points on the back of their chip, and those are going to form the 5 point baddie stack. And then we're going to grab all the ones with those icons from the 20 points, and we're going to place them here as well. This is basically going to be where enemies are going to spawn when we end up in battle. Okay, so now it's time to set up the encounter decks. First thing we're going to do is going to take everything marked special encounter and set it aside. Notice the top 3 have day numbers. We'll talk about them in a minute, so we're just going to put them to little separate piles by here for now. Then, because we're playing pure solo, we want to grab all these cards here that say solo on the bottom. And because we chose Nom as our baddie, we're also going to take his base set special encounter 1 of 1 and place that here. So the way this works is that if you look at Nom, we have a time limit on the game, and days is basically rounds in the game. So we have this many days to finish our mission, and we also have to get 6 points of these gears in order to actually fight the nemesis at the end. So because we've got 8 days, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 3 cards for day 1, 2, and 3 and make sure they're on top of the deck that we found in the special encounter. And then obviously 8 minus 3 means we're going to add 5 of these normal solo encounters to the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And our special tyrant encounter is going to go in with these, and they're going to get shuffled. Then we're going to place days 1, 2, and 3 from the special encounter deck on top of this. And this is basically going to form our encounter deck. The game also comes with a card like this in case you don't want to spoil the story for yourself before drawing. So we're just going to leave that there. We'll place that next to our day counter. Okay, so because this is our first game, what we're going to do is going to set it up according to this adventure difficulty in the rulebook. And that basically means we're going to add 2 HP to his HP stat before day 1. And we're going to gain 1 training point before day 1. So let's get on with that now, shall we? Also, before we start, don't forget to have your reference sheet for patches. This will be very useful. And the reference sheet for everything else in the game. Keep these to one side because you'll be referencing them quite a lot. Okay, so because we're on adventure mode, first thing we're going to do is get our +2 health and our training point. So that gives Patches a total health of 7. So before we start, what we should do is get some health chips handy. So that would be 7 health, and we would just basically place 7 of these health chips underneath Patches' chip, and then place him in our prep area. Also, it's worth noting that because we got our training point, we can choose to either upgrade one of our base stats, or we can unlock one of our skill dice. This is what training points do. And I think because we get given 1 training point, we've got 2 attack and 2 defense right now, I think our best option would probably be to get this first skill dice, which, based on this reference sheet, you basically, this would be the dice and it'll show you what icons are on it. And then you would reference this icon down the side. So in this case, this would be heal. Because there's a little I in brackets, it means it's instant. Heal any Gearlock for the amount of HP. So on our turn, we would roll this, and it would mean we could heal for the amount of HP. So we're just going to place that in our medkit spot here. Basically, any slot that has this little star next to it means that's where you've got to start your tree. So, I think that's our health and our training point setup. We've got space over here for loot. We've got space over here for dice we exhaust. So, let's just get on to round 1, shall we? Okay, so the first thing we would normally do at the beginning of a day is take our day counter up. But because it's day 1, we don't do that. Then, what we would do is we would draw the top encounter of the encounter deck and read out. Only 12 hours till dawn and the send-off ceremony that will no doubt change the lives of every remaining Gearlock, and likely every life in Dalo. Weapons and supplies are ready to go, but the night is young and adrenaline fills the veins. It's clear no sleep will be had tonight. There's sure to be some shady peddlers in the dark alleys ready to deal in loot. Then again, some last-minute training could pay dividend by morning. So what do you want to do? So, whenever you draw an encounter, you'll be given some choices, and as you can see, as I was talking about when talking about the tyrant, we need to get 6 of these points, so we need to resolve these encounters to get points. So we can either squeeze in some last minute self-improvement, which would give us, this is a symbol for training points, and this other symbol by here means there won't be a battle. This is a peaceful encounter. So we can either squeeze in some self-improvement for 2 training points, or we can shake down the shady peddler so we can draw 2 loot and choose to keep 1. What I'm going to do in this situation, because I want to show you how the different stats upgrade, is I'm just going to take the 2 trading points. So we'll just lay that to the side a minute and I'll explain that. Okay, so the way that upgrading Patches would work, we got 2 training points. So attack and defense would require you to roll their current values and not roll any failures, which in this case, in this game, is this bone symbol. So what we're going to do is the first thing, I think, with our 2 training points is we're going to take a 1 for dexterity that we don't have to roll for. And then I think we should roll our attack dice. Oh no, we got bones. So in this case, we don't get the point. But if we had actually rolled anything but the bones, which for the sake of demonstration I'm going to say we did, we're going to get another stat into our attack. This will determine how many dice we can roll in battle and how many actions we have per turn. Health is the amount of chips underneath. So basically now, we're going to move on to day 2 encounter. Okay, so as I just said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tick up to day 2, and then we're going to draw another encounter. Okay, so 15 steps into the journey, 15 steps, and already Gearlock Boot is struck through by an arrow. Luckily, no toes were killed. Teeth are clenched and a painful tug is made while looking around in embarrassment. Yow! Now, sufficiently tickled, it's time to return the favour to the ominous figures at the edge of the woods. A commotion breaks out atop the city wall, interrupting all thoughts. Guards have now spotted the brazen intruders and are notching their arrows. Their help is at the ready. Like it or not, this adventure is underway. So, basically, as you can see, this encounter has this symbol here, which means it's a battle. So we're going to be setting up a battle in a minute, and I'm going to explain that. We're also going to explain the battle queue in a second, and we're also going to play this. But for the sakes of this, I am actually going to choose, because this is recommended for our first adventure, we're going to have a battle with battle points, but at the start of each round, arrows from the wall will deal 1 true damage, and true damage is damage that basically gets through defense. So because they're recommended, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to lay this over here next to the battle mat, and we're going to place the little glass gem they give us on this section of the card just to remind us that that was the choice we took. Okay, so let's just talk about how the baddie queue is generated for a second. Basically, BQ means baddie queue, and baddie points means the amount of baddie points. And the way to calculate the baddie points is to take the amount of days on the day counter times the amount of players. And because we're playing a pure solo game, that means we're only going to have 2 baddie points. Okay, let's talk about how to start this battle. See, because we have 2 baddie points, that means we're going to draw 2 points of baddies from these 3 stacks on the side. And basically, the way this works, if I had more than 5 baddies, I would draw from the 5 first. So say if I had 6 baddies to draw, I would draw 1 5 in space 1, and then the 1 point baddie into space 2. But because we've only got 2 baddie points in this queue, we're going to set it up like this. So this here would be our battle queue, which normally we'd place off to the side, but because there's only 2 of them, we might as well just spawn them. So the top baddie, for lane 1, if we look at the chip, it'll tell us everything we need to know to actually set it up. So first, is the initiative. And the way to set this up is to basically take the initiative die belonging to the lane and set it to the value. In this case, it was a 6, meaning that this would slot in by there. And then, we've also got 2 health to worry about. So we're going to grab 2 health and the lane marker chip, put that underneath, ready to spawn it on the board. Now we need to check where to spawn it. Ah, look, it's a ranged enemy, so it means it's going to spawn in the back row. Okay, now we're going to spawn the second baddie. Let's see what we got here. Oh, he's only got a 2 initiative. So we're going to take his initiative die from lane 2, set it to a 2, and put it by here. Initiative will always run highest number from the top. And that will basically determine turn order. So we've done initiative, now we're looking at health and where he's going to spawn. So he's a melee and he's got 3 health. So we're going to take this chip, 3 health chips, and we're going to set him in the melee spot in lane 2. Okay, so now we need to roll our initiative dice for our Gearlock. So Patches takes his initiative dice and gives it a roll and rolls initiative of 3. So this means that because he's only a 3, he's going to go after our blue enemy in lane 1, but before our purple enemy in lane 2. This is basically going to be the turn order for the battle. So let's put Patches on the board. And because Patches himself is a melee, he gets to choose to start on this melee row. So he's going to start directly in front of this troll roamer. So let's get to the action. Okay, so as we can see, lane 1 is going to go first. And in this case, we should pay attention to the chip because it has an ability called Compound. So if we compare the keyword on the chip with Compound on the sheet it says this unit's attack stat is equal to the current round. This basically means that it'll roll 1 attack dice on round 1, 2 attack dice on round 2, and so on. So we kind of need to deal with this one. It also has Hardy, which any turn this unit takes damage to its HP, including true damage, the total is reduced by 1. So the true damage isn't going to affect this enemy in this battle. Okay, so because he's also a ranged baddie, this means he isn't going to move. He also has a targeting priority, which means if it's this guy, he's going to target the weakest. But first, they'll always go for closest. So this guy is just going to roll 1 of these attack dice. And then we're going to apply the damage to Patches depending on the result. So in this case, it did 1. So that means Patches is going to lose 1 health chip. Better watch out for that on round 2, eh? Okay, that's the end of that baddie's turn. Now, Patches is going to get to go. This is symbolised by his dice in the turn order. So for Patches, let's go have a look at our gear log. Okay, so if we look at Patches, as you can see, he's got a dexterity of 2 plus 1, which is 3, which means we can roll a maximum of 3 dice this turn. He also has an attack stat of 1 plus 1, which is 2. So he can roll 2 attack dice. Now, we also see that he's got a defense stat of 1, so we're going to also roll 1 defense dice. This uses up all our dexterity, and that would basically be our turn. So let's roll and see what happens. Before rolling, you must always declare your target. So before I roll my dice, I'm going to declare that this is my target. And as you can see, he's got a few things of his own. So thick-skinned kind of functions pretty much in the same way as the Hardy does on the other enemy, just it doesn't block true damage. So basically, this means that I'm going to have to generate 2 attack in order to do 1 damage to him, because he's only got 1 thick-skinned, which basically acts like defense. So I'm going to roll these dice. We also must remember at the beginning that we had our Archer's Fire, so we're going to remove that first. This guy's Hardy, so he doesn't receive the true damage. We rolled 2 attack and 1 defense. So first, we're going to apply these 2 attack. And because of his thick-skinned, it's only actually going to do 1 damage. Which, as you could tell, by the amount of chips left underneath him, there's only 1 health to go until that baddie is defeated. And this defense dice will go into our active slot on our gear lock, which I'll show you now. Okay, so if you take a closer look at Patch's gear lock map, you'll notice he has 3 active slots and 3 lock slots. So basically, the defense we've rolled, we can put this in our active slot. This means we will get to negate 1 damage when we're hit in the enemy turn. Also, some of the skill dice will have a locked effect, which means they would stay here basically until they're either used or for the rest of the game. It's also worth noting that while I've got a defense dice in my active slot, it is no longer available for me to roll when I attack. Okay, so that's the end of Patch's turn. Now, for the baddie that's in lane 2, which is the troll we just attacked. So, it has Careless, which means if we roll any bones, it's going to hurt itself for 1 damage. So, let's first of all, we're going to check its attack value, which is 1. It's already adjacent to us, so it's not going to move. And it's just going to roll 1 attack dice to see what happens. So, oh, it hit us for 1. So instead of Patches taking a damage, what he's going to do is he's going to take this defense dice out of the active slot to symbolize that it's been used. These dice do not exhaust. Basically, if a dice is exhausted, like with a skill dice, if I was to roll this, it would exhaust. That would mean that it would be put right next to the map by here, so that we wouldn't be able to use it next time. But we haven't used it yet, so we'll just put that back. So defense and attack dice don't exhaust when we use them, unless there's a very specific situation where they do, called break, which basically means if you roll attack dice against enemy with break, it will exhaust your attack dice, fundamentally reducing your attack stat for the next round. So let's get back to the battle at hand, shall we? Okay, so it's the start of a new round. So first thing that will happen is this will tick over to round 2, and we'll reset our turn order. Basically, as well as this, because of the encounter we chose, we've got to remember at the start of each round, we're going to deal 1 true damage to each baddie. Obviously, because of Hardy, true damage doesn't affect this guy, but it will kill off this troll. So, goodbye troll. When something dies, we'll basically discard its chip and remove its initiative die from the track. If there was any other baddies in the baddie queue, they would spawn at the start of next round. But in this case, that isn't the case. Okay, so as well as that, we've also got to worry about Patch's innate ability, but that doesn't trigger till the start of his turn. So first things first, remember, because he's got compound, now we're on round 2, what's going to happen is instead of rolling 1 attack dice, he's going to roll 2. Which, oof, that's not good. It's going to hit us for 3 damage. Ouch. That kind of hurt. Patches isn't looking so sweet. So, now that he's had his turn, it's now Patch's turn. So Patches, because of his innate ability, the first thing that's going to happen on his turn is he's going to heal for 1 chip. As outlined on the back of his character reference, we will find that his innate ability, which is written by here, at the start of his turn, Patches heals himself for 1 HP. So we've done that. Okay, it appears we're in a bit of a sticky situation. So, as you can see, Patches has 3 dexterity. One of the things I think we should do in this situation is actually move. So, Patches is going to spend 2 of his dexterity to move 2 spaces towards this enemy. So 1, 2. Okay, so this leaves me with 1 dexterity, and based on the hit I took last turn from the compound, I think I should probably roll this skill dice, which basically allows me to heal up depending on what I roll. So 2 HP. So, let's take these 2 health chips and give them to Patches. Here you go, Patches. Have some health. We know you need it. Okay, so that would be Patches' turn. Now we'd move on to round 3, where once again, because of its hardy, the damage from the arrows isn't going to affect it. Also remember that because we used our skill dice, it is now exhausted and not available to be rolled in our next turn. So, first turn in combat goes to our kobold again. And this time, because it's round 3, he's going to roll 3 attack dice against us. So let's get those 3 attack dice. And give them a roll. Oh, 3 hits. It's just as well we healed up, really. We didn't roll any defense either last time. So, ouch. Okay. So, onto our turn. Okay, I definitely think what we should do this time is roll both of our attack dice and our defense dice. So we're going to take 2 attacks and 1 defense. And we're just going to give them a good roll and drop them there. Oh no, we've dropped the bones. This would be a good time to talk about this. Okay, so instead of locking this in the defense dice, like I would if it scored a hit, instead we've rolled a miss. This will go into our backup plan. Each gear lock has a different backup plan. So, if we look at Patch's backup plan, as you can see, as he builds up failures or bones, if he got 2 of them locked in there, he will be able to heal a gear lock for 1 HP. As these increase, they get pretty powerful. And if you hit 6 bones, there's only 5 slots, but if you roll a 6, you get to upgrade your innate, which, as you can see here, which allows the health stat die by 1 as well. So, it's a very useful ability. Most of your powerful abilities are actually locked behind these failure conditions, so I think that's actually pretty fun. So as you can see, we've rolled 1 bones, and we've locked that in here in slot 1, where there's no power for us to worry about. But we have rolled 2 attack. Okay, so because of hardy, our 2 attack is actually only going to hit him for 1 of his damage chips. 1 of his health chips even. So that's the end of his turn. I'm going to move these back, tick to round 4, and he's going to roll another 4 attack dice against us. Oh, let's hope this don't hurt too badly. Oof, 4 damage. Unlucky, because he only has 3 health. So if we did roll this in this situation, what would happen is that he would die, and then we would shuffle, well, apart from, in this case, look, after either lost this encounter, back on top of the encounter deck. So we're not actually going to lose the fight this time. We're going to pretend that he rolled 2 bones and only hit us for 2 health, okay? Okay, so he hit us for that 2 health. Now Patch's turn again. And his innate's going to give him 1 of his health back. And then he's going to get to roll 2 attack and 1 defense again to try and finish off this kobold. Oof, it's another bones. Okay, I think now would be a good time to use our backup plan. We can use it at any point in our turn. It says to heal our gear lock. So we put our innate chip under, but this will also allow us to heal another chip under Patches. So now Patches will have 3 health. Also, as you can see, we've rolled 2 attack. So let's apply this attack to the enemy now. It appears this 2 attack plus our hardy was actually enough to defeat this kobold. So, that would be the end of the battle. Let's talk about what happens after we've resolved this encounter. Okay, so because the battle's over, we're going to pull everything and reset our mat. So that puts our skill dice in, any lock dice come down, etc. So let's resolve the ending. So as you can see, we get no training points here, but here we get 1 training point and a loot because we succeeded with this, which is for all of them. If we had actually taken the other choice, we would have completed it with an extra training point. So let's spend our training point now. Based on how the last battle went, I think we should unlock another one of our skills. So if we look at our reference sheet for Patches again, we can see that this dice here, if you look at this dice here, it is a multiplier for the first dice, and also notice that we can lock this one thanks to the L in brackets below. So a rolled medkit may be multiplied by this amount. So if I rolled 3 and 3, that would actually be 9 heals. That's a pretty powerful skill. So we're just going to get this skill with our training point and lay it in the fast hands slot. Each dice is numbered, and so is the slot. So we know that goes in number 2 because it's got a 2 in the corner. So we leveled up after that fight. I think it's time to go on to the recovery phase. So in the recovery phase, we can choose to do a couple of things. First things first, we can always do these top 3, and we can only do these, individual, so each key log may do it. But in this case, we're only playing 1, so we could do all, really. But I'm actually going to do the rest and recover individual option, so that we heal up to the full HP. So we're going to do that. And don't forget, as well as our training point, we also got some loot. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 health to bring him back up to max. And we're going to also draw one of these loot cards and see what we get. Ooh, this is a single use item, which means we can actually do what it says. So we'll select one of our, we'll use it now, and we'll take one of our consumable skill dice and place it on its spot. In this case, I am actually going to go for the Liquid Life, I think, because Liquid Life is a really good revival skill, but not that we can use it in solo, but we're not going to get that far. So now we've gone through a recovery phase, it's time to move on to the next day. Okay, so tick that up to day 3 and draw our day 3 encounter. And I'm going to stop after this encounter to avoid spoiling any of the story for you. So let's have a look. At the beginning of day 3, the Sibron River, a glistening vein of trade running the length of Daylor, playfully beckons as it shimmers in the daylight up ahead. But with so few bridges in these parts, this crossing is an obvious spot for enemy scouts and traps. A journey of this importance leaves only 2 options. Tucking the ears and trying to blend in is risky but efficient. A boat at dusk carries less chance of discovery but requires business with the Molno, a trading syndicate with their own set of drawbacks. So, what choice should we make for the last one of our day? So that would give us 2 points. Basically, once we got the 6 points required, we would then spawn this guy and his Baddie queue to do the ending battle. But I'm not going to show you that in this game because, to be honest, I consider that a spoiler. So for the end of day 3, these cards are all the same for every battle. So for the end of day 3, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these Trove Loot and insert the Molno card into our encounter deck. Which would be this one. So you take Molno traders, and then you shuffle it into your encounter deck. So I think that's pretty much enough of the gameplay that I'm going to show you. Now I think it's time that we got back to the table so I can tell you what I think of the game. Okay, so now we've come to the part of the video where it's time for me to tell you what I think. I will say straight away that I've barely scratched the surface of the game in this demonstration. I literally only played the first 3 encounters, which are the same every time in the base game. So without much further ado, let's just get on with it, shall we? So for aesthetics, I've decided to give this one a 10 out of 10. I can't praise it enough for its aesthetics. I think these weighted chips, they're absolutely wonderful. They have a really nice tactile feel. Every mat is made out of neoprene. It's all got stitch edges. Even the dice, high quality screen printing on their surfaces. There really isn't any downsides to the production quality of this game. And for that reason, I've decided out of aesthetics, I'm going to score it a 10 out of 10. Okay, so now we're just going to be moving on to gameplay. And for gameplay, I feel that it's a very interesting gameplay loop. It has a lot of depth. I feel that there's enough encounters in there to keep it interesting. I think that the battles themselves, depending on what you draw into that baddie queue, can be very different from game to game. It just really seems to scratch all those itches for me. It's just proven to be one of my favourite games gameplay wise. I really enjoy the mechanics. Those battles are really tactical, and for me, I can spend. I haven't got bored of it yet, and I've played it 22 times. So I'm basically going to give this, for its gameplay, it's got a 9 out of 10. Now we're basically moving on to the accessibility. And to be honest, this is the only little bit, because it can be quite complex, like learning your gear lock, as there is so many of them to learn. Having to constantly reference the sheets might be a problem for some people, but I think once you've played it enough, you're really not going to really need them anymore. It's got a bit of a learning curve. There's a lot of rules to keep track of, but like I said, because it flows so well, it's not really that big a problem. So for accessibility, I've decided to give this one an 8 out of 10. And that basically means that this got a very high score of 9 out of 10 as a total. So for this game, like I said, it's quickly becoming one of my favourite games in my collection. I just really enjoy it. I just can't stop playing it, even after all this time, and I'm definitely going to be getting into some of those expansions soon enough. So without much further ado, let me just say that if you like what you see, please feel free to smash that like button up there and check out another one of my videos up here. I've been Johnny, you've been watching the Hexy Beast, and most of all, stay Hexy everyone!